Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and Ray Dalio, the billionaire from Bridgewater and Associates, has spoken up. This is from Gold Telegraph. We are now going to have the major powers and their allies form economic, currency, and military blocs. Dollar-denominated global order is fading away. That's Ray Dalio. Now, my sponsor, Glint, just redesigned their website, and they did a new video. I wanted to show you this. This is awesome. If you really want to understand how cool this Glint company is, watch.
Here are what we're calling our 5 golden truths. Number 1, with Glint, our clients can buy, save, and spend real physical gold digitally, even at the checkout, giving instant access to gold liquidity. 2, Glint's clients own their gold. Unlike many of our competitors, our clients' gold is specifically allocated to them, secure in a Brinks vault in Switzerland and insured by Lloyd's of London. 3, all Glint's transactions are super safe and super fast. When a client spends their gold using their Glint MasterCard, their physical gold is sold and their transaction is satisfied in the local currency of the vendor within a maximum of 1/4 of a second. 4, in the US, your Glint account allows you to save and spend in both gold and US dollars. We have now introduced Glinted, our in-app P2P functionality that enables our clients to instantly send and receive US dollars between Glint accounts, perfect for gifting, splitting bills, or making payments. Also, when US citizens spend gold in any state in the US, there is 0 charge on the transactions. And 5, Glint's FX is up to 6 times cheaper than the banks. So when traveling abroad, Glint account holders need only take 1 card with them. No more exchanging US dollars for local currencies at the Bureau de Change.
Remember that discussion in the past I've had about bail-ins and how the banks across the world have written into their policies bail-ins in the next financial crisis? Well, the Glint account is not a bank account, it's separate. And that is a big deal. This video is important for you to see all of it. This is Brad Garlinghouse in Davos, and it is great. If I can get it to play, it's great. Hold on one sec. We're going to hit the old refresh button.
Indicative of, to some degree, a crypto winter that, as you just suggested, has changed in tone from how the last Davos, in terms of just, there was a lot of hype, a lot of noise around all things crypto at the last Davos, and I think seeing the change, and I actually think it's a really healthy change, that there's more focus on utility. Are these technologies that are solving real problems? And I think to your question, I think to the extent there are companies solving real problems for real customers, and they're going to continue to grow regardless of the environment. Is there continued contagion? I think we're obviously continuing to hear noise about what's going on with DCG and Gemini. Hard to know. It sounds like that could work out in a constructive way. I think all of this has not been great for crypto at large. But again, if you just focus on companies that are solving real problems, certainly Ripple had a record 2022. We'd rather see crypto do well at large, but we had a great year, signed up more and more customers and more volume going through our payment rails.
And in terms of your outlook for 2023, we've seen a bit of a bump for Bitcoin in the crypto markets. Are you expecting that to continue, or is this just a little bit of false hope?
Well, I've tried to stay out of the short-term price prediction on all things Bitcoin, or crypto in general. I'm long-term very bullish because I think these are technologies that can solve real problems at scale. And I think when you have kind of new emerging technologies, not dissimilar than, frankly, the internet and kind of the dot-com bubble, sometimes the hype gets ahead of the reality. That comes into balance over time. But we shouldn't forget, it was really not that long ago, 21 years ago, Amazon during the dot-com bubble almost went out of business. So the fact that you're seeing some changes in the crypto world, I think, can be healthy for the long-term health of the industry.
And yet FTX appears to be a very high-profile case of fraud. there are serious regulatory and auditing gaps that went on with that institution. And yet at the same time, what I'm reading is so many people have been critical of SBF for having this close relationship with the regulators, the fact that he visited Gary Gensler so many times. So where do you draw the line? We need to strengthen regulation and oversight in this industry, but how close should the...
Right here, you're going to see Brad Garlinghouse pays close attention to the XRP community and what goes on. He brings up Madoff here in a second, and I can promise you he's been watching what we're putting out. Come on now.
This industry, but how close should the relationship be between your peer group and the U.S. regulators who are looking at these institutions?
Yeah, first of all, I think you're exactly right. We talk about this as a crypto problem, but really this is just fraud. And I think in some ways not that dissimilar than Bernie Madoff. And when Bernie Madoff occurred, we didn't totally restructure how we thought about oversight and regulation of hedge funds.
Bingo.
We realized that, hey, clearly in that case also the SEC had overlooked, and if people had reported to the SEC they should be looking into.
He meant, quote, overlooked. This thing keeps
had reported to the SEC they should be looking into Bernie Madoff. So I know that the SEC had met a bunch of times with SBF. I don't know the specifics of what types of oversight they were applying. I do think this is a fraud. I don't view this as a crypto problem at large. But to your point, I think regulatory clarity globally is important. And we're seeing a lot of countries. I mean, here we are in Davos, and Switzerland's clearly one of the countries leading in providing regulatory clarity at an early stage. You have the UAE leaning in, the UK, Japan, Singapore. The U.S. is notably absent from that list. And I think in some ways the regulators in the U.S. have added confusion to the crypto marketplace.
And let's talk about those regulators in the U.S., the SEC, Brad. Let's get a check-in on what's going on with that lawsuit with the SEC and Ripple. Are you nearing an end potentially? Are you planning to settle with the SEC?
Well, we have always said that we would love to settle, but it requires one very, very, very important thing, and that is that on a go-forward basis, it's clear that XRP is not a security. The SEC and Gary Gensler has very outwardly said he views almost all crypto as a security, and so that leaves very little space in a Venn diagram for settlement. The case is now fully briefed in front of the judge, and judges take however long the judges will take. We're optimistic that this will certainly be resolved in 2023 and maybe the first half. So we'll see how it plays out from here. But I feel very good about where we are relative to the law and the facts.
So are you going to wait for the judge to come out with a decision on this one?
I'm very optimistic, and I think absent some significant change in posture from the SEC, I can't imagine that we won't have...
Well, let me tell you, unless an attorney corrects me on whether it's even possible at this point, we still don't have a decision, I don't think, on those Hinman emails. And if today the judge came down and said, show them all the Hinman emails unredacted, I believe the SEC settles if they still can. I'm assuming they still can.
From the SEC, I can't imagine that we won't have resolution from the judge. I also will point out, and certainly something I've heard here in Davos repeatedly, is how important this is, not just to how Ripple it goes forward, but also really the whole crypto industry in the United States. And I keep reminding people that outside the United States, crypto is still thriving, Ripple is still thriving, and we should make sure we're continuing to engage non-U.S. regulators as well.
I mean, it's also difficult to say it's thriving when so many people have lost a lot of money speculating. And the key word here is speculating on the price of Bitcoin and various other cryptocurrencies. I remember back at the peak, there was a lot of talk about institutions getting involved. Given what we've seen, given the price action, given the drawdowns, given the numerous amounts of fraud cases that have gone on in the space, doesn't it feel like the hurdle is extremely high, if not impossible now, to get institutions involved? If you were sitting on a board of a pension fund, how could you justify to them that you're going to get involved in cryptocurrencies?
Well, I think it depends upon how we're defining institutional involvement. When I think about institutional involvement with Ripple, I'm thinking about financial institutions, banks, payment providers who are using our technologies to solve a cross-border payments problem. They've continued to engage, we've continued to grow, and so I feel good about that. But look, I think anytime you have this kind of change, people take a moment. I also think, and I pointed out in one of the sessions I was in at Davos here yesterday, is, we talk about, obviously, crypto is down 65%. Tesla is down 65%. Facebook is down about 65%. No one's saying, hey, we shouldn't invest in Tesla or Facebook. So I think we have to, clearly, I would much rather not have the volatility we've seen in crypto in 2022. But I think we also have to look at that in concert of other kind of growth investment areas. And again, to your point, most of crypto has been speculation. If it's just speculation, I don't think that's long-term sustainable. We need to focus on utility and make sure we're solving problems for.
Right. Well, then Bitcoin's in trouble. Okay. And then Anthony Welfare from Ripple retweets. It says, great update from our fearless CEO on our best year ever for Ripple in 2022, the future of crypto, FTX fraud, enterprise adoption, and of course his thoughts on XRP court case. And then this also, Anthony Welfare, Ripple cross-border in action. XRP utility is a reality, and it's only just the beginning. All right. And this right here, what he's pointing to is this. Ripple now dominates Australian crypto exchange volumes. That's what happens when you're regulatorily, you're free. Okay. It would do the same thing in the US. That's the reason they've held it back. That's the reason they propped Bitcoin and Ethereum up from a regulatory standpoint, is because they knew that XRP would drop kick both of them. Fact jack. It's just the fact, it's the way it is. Cross-border payments, cryptocurrency Ripple now dominates trading volumes as at some of Australia's leading digital exchanges, and the international payments emerge as primary use case in Australian digital assets markets. Folks, it's not a coincidence that in 2018, XRP outperformed everything. And that's when these people behind Bitcoin and Ethereum knew, they saw the writing on the wall. That's why they all went in motion to slow this down and to do the regulatory capture of XRP. And that's just the way it is. And that's where all of our evidence that we found leads. Brad Garlinghouse, I'm honored to join the European Commission's Merid McGuinness, UAE's Omar Sultan. Golly, they're going to make me say these names. And then this person. And Bloomberg's Stacey Marie is, the names, finding the right balance for crypto. So he's talking about the segment he's going to do, which is tomorrow in Davos. Coinbase is halting operations in Japan less than a month after another major digital asset exchange, Kraken, announced its withdrawal from the country. Then we have, I wanted to show you this. Folks, this is not Gary Gensler's first rodeo. Gary Gensler was there at the CFTC. He's the chairman at the CFTC when the MF Global scandal erupts, okay? MF Global's the same freaking thing as FTX. It just wasn't crypto. It was commingling of customer funds. And Gary Gensler oversaw it the same way this time he oversaw FTX at the SEC. And listen, this is one of the attorneys that was going after all the bad guys in the MF Global situation. Listen to this.
The CFTC chairman, a guy named Gary Gensler, was actually a protege of John Corzine, believe it or not, and had worked with Corzine.
John Corzine was the CEO of MF Global. He was at Goldman Sachs. He was Gary's boss. Gary was his protege. Then he goes to do MF Global while Gary is the chairman of the CFTC. You see how this works?
To make some of the commodity CFTC regulations more lenient so that firms like MF Global could invest client money in more aggressive things. Gensler, actually on the day of the bankruptcy, supposedly in a closed-door meeting with the SEC, decided that instead of the CFTC handling the liquidation of MF Global, because there were $6.2 billion in commodity accounts versus $100 million in securities accounts, he let the securities regulators handle the bankruptcy, and they threw it under.
Yeah, he let the securities regulators do it because Gary was too close to the situation.
An act called SIPA, which is the Securities Investor Protection Act, which is administered by the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. So you've got an entity whose job is to slowly and methodically wind down broker-dealers and banks who have engaged in securities trading, and then cover any shortfall with its civic insurance, which is $500,000 per account. You got them now in charge of the liquidation of something that's 99% a futures broker.
Did you hear that? So you got the SEC basically, they've deferred it to the SEC and they deferred it to this organization, even though 99% of MF Global fell under the CFTC where Gary Gensler was chairman, and he didn't oversee it.
So this wasn't really a very good situation.
Yeah, it's not a good situation because it stinks to high heaven. Now, Eleanor Terrett breaking, DOJ will hold a press conference at 12 p.m. to announce a major international cryptocurrency enforcement action. The U.S. Treasury will also announce an action. Live stream link on the DOJ website and more info below. This looks like a big old deal here, folks. This will be interesting. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe. Hit the like button. Tell your friends and family to tune in at 12 p.m. Going to be interesting.